Hi everyone, welcome to Wealthy Mindset. My name is Oliver. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys are having a great day like always. And in today's video, I'm going to be covering BlackBerry, GameStop, AMC, Nokia, all for March 16th trading day, giving you guys the lows and the highs like always by analyzing the graph. Now, I'm going to be covering the Dow Jones in the first portion, so I highly encourage you to watch that for the first 50 to 60 seconds. That way you get the feel of the overall market. And then you could click the description down below for timestamps for your specific stock, so that way you could go straight to them. And a quick disclaimer just before I begin, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a professional, and everything I do share with you guys is just my opinion. It is not advice, so please do not buy or sell based off of information I give you or the opinions I do form. I do own shares in BlackBerry, been holding for 6 years, so I'm like a long-term investor overall. Now if we begin with the Dow Jones, like always, I've gone more in depth before explaining why I'm bullish for the overall market for at least for the next 6 months to a year. And it just relates back to this upward trend resistance line. And I'm going to elaborate more on that. But just to quickly go over the 10-year treasury. The 10-year treasury is still technically going up right here. And the significance of it is technically when the 10-year treasury goes up, it relates to like inflation. And it's just a technical sense. The Federal Reserve has stated that they will not increase interest rates based off the 10-year treasury at the moment because it does not reflect the real world. It reflects just a technical sense. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because the Federal Reserve will be meeting tomorrow in terms of 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, March 17th. And the markets might be a little bit choppy till then because people do realize that the Federal Reserve won't increase their interest rates at least till 2022. So technically it's 2023, but there might be one interest rate increase in 2022. But for the time being, it's technically 2023 with a speculation of 2022. And the reason why, if they increase interest rates, it's not good because companies can't borrow as much money. And if they can't borrow as much money, they can't increase their earnings hypothetically with research and development in terms of developing better stuff and so on and so forth. I go way more in depth in that. But the one thing I want to show is it could be choppy for the next few days, but overall I'm bullish because there's an upward trend resistance line dating back since 1999, had a resistance 1999 right here, 2000 dot-com bubble, passed it ever so slightly, had a peak, didn't meet it since 2018 right here, just before pandemic right here as well, didn't pass it fully, V-shaped recovery, and then had an upward trend support line with multiple touch points right here. Now, what I'm trying to show is, if you've seen my past videos, we came back down, back tested the upward trend support line resistance line, and then went back up on the upward trend support line right here. And that's significant because we've passed a major resistance line and it's still looking pretty good overall. Now, the thing is though, it doesn't mean we can't come back down. We could come back down, bounce off here and go to the upside. Or what we could do also is come back down completely and bounce off to the upside on the 1999-2000 dot-com bubble upward trend resistance line. So overall looking pretty good, and then we're above both short and long moving average. MAC lines in the positive. The only thing is though, just keep in mind again, today trading day could be a little bit choppy. Tomorrow's trading day could be a little bit choppy until 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And then basically I think for the rest of the week it's going to be good just because people are just wanting to be reaffirmed that yes, interest rates won't be increased until later on. So basically, people just want to hear that first. So it's going to be choppy until the meeting to tomorrow. It could be continuing up. There's a chance. I think it could be continuing up, and people are like, we already know that they're not going to increase interest rates. But just in case if the markets do go down, I would assume it's mainly because of that, because people want to be like reaffirmed that that is the case, that they will be holding interest rates until 2023 now, or at least 2022, as long as they're not increasing interest rates this year. Now, if we go to BlackBerry, BlackBerry's looking pretty good overall. I'm just going to go to the algorithmic view for a sec, and then the 1 year chart, or actually the 1 month chart right about here. Now, if you've been a viewer on my channel before, in the past, you've noticed that there's an upward trend support line that, yes, the logarithmic view we broke, but the algorithmic view, which is technically the true form, has not been, well, had a false breakup, but it's still holding pretty good. So back here since October 2020, held support, back tested in December, January 2021, and then had a false breakout right here, but bounced back up to the upside, looking really good overall, really good, in really good shape. Now, if I go to the 1 month chart right here, there's technically an upward trend support line right here, I believe it was in the logarithmic view looked better, or the 5-day moving chart, can't remember, but has touch points along the lines right here. Looks like we're bouncing back up to the upside to it. The only thing is, though, we could be coming down a little bit, and I'm going to elaborate on the levels that if we come down, where we'll come down to. But overall, I think we're going to be good, especially towards the end of the week, I would say, in my opinion. Then we have another upward trend support line that we could fall back on, which was the bottom of the false breakout. And if that's the case, like, I'll elaborate more. The only thing is, though, in terms of the month chart, we're above both short and long moving average. The only thing is, though, the MACD line is in the negative, but I'm pretty confident that it's going to cross over to the positive. The only thing is, though, so what is most likely going to happen is, I had this to show you guys the other day, but I forgot to show it. I had it marked down on the graph. Is we could consolidate around 1144 to 1150 price point to the bottom side, to the upside of 1236, 1238, or something like that. Can't remember exactly. 1230. Let's just say 1235 for the sake of the side of the graph, for the next 2-3 day trading days. So far we've done it for one trading day. We technically have another 2 trading days. This was recent. This was dating back since February 2nd all the way to February 5th. So we could be doing that just because you have the Federal Reserve meeting for tomorrow as well. So that could be a catalyst to just basically consolidate sideways for the time being. Now, if you're optimistic, and then one more thing. I know I'm going on a tangent, I apologize, but we had a downward trend resistance line that I thought was going to act as support mainly, and I thought we were going to pass it easily. It is holding us down a little bit, but I think it's still temporary. So basically it held us down, and then we have to pass it again. We did have I think it was relatively quick. That's the only problem. We did hit 1252, 1251, I think it was, or something like that. And we passed it, but we came back down. And I think it was a little bit too quick that the graph is not really showing it fully, because it's showing as 1238 here or something like that. So once we pass it, we'll be good and continue the upside. But I wouldn't be too worried about this downward trend resistance line. It's going to act as more support once we pass it. Now, the question is, if we go high, how high will we go? And if we go low, I'll cover the low side as well. So if we go high, we need to pass 1203 first, then 1199, 1203, somewhere around there, basically. But 1203, then 1223 to 1238. Then we have 1244 to 1250. There is, like, for example, 1251, 1255, 1257, and then 1259 as well. But basically the 1250 ballpark price point. And then hopefully once we pass that, I'm hoping we'll consolidate at least for the 1260 to 1280 price point. We'll be there quite a while for quite a while at between 1260 to 1280. Now, if we go like catabolic to the upside and go crazy to the upside, yes, we'll have resistance at $13 price point and $12.99, but the main one that we're gonna have issues with is like 1336, 1338. I think it was 1334, somewhere around there. So 1330 for the most part. And that's the issue. Like, we're going to be stuck there we're going to have issues passing that. That's basically what it is. Now, if you think we're going to go to the downside, which I personally don't think we're going to go a lot, for one reason, just specifically. So yesterday, we had a downward trend resistance line that was keeping us hypothetically down once we spiked up from the, the 1250. And I'm not doing a good job showing the downward trend resistance line because you don't see too many touch points hypothetically, but had a downward trend resistance line and we broke off it. So that is a positive sign. This is the 1 day moving chart. 1 day moving chart above short and long moving average on the one day moving chart, plus the MACD line is in the positive. So we might have a little bit of a dip in the beginning of the day, but overall I think we might be moving up to the upside, relatively speaking. Now, if we go down, how low will we go? We have support at like the 1190, 1188, 1183. The only thing is, though, the major support levels is the ones that I'm going to be highlighting here. So 1172 is pretty much major support level. Yes, we have 1163 as support as well, but it's not that strong. The one that's going to be holding us for the most part will be, I guess, is when I checked it was like 1155, 1154, but mainly we could have the dip to the 1150. I think the 1150 will hold us off pretty well. And from what I measured, there was the upward trend support line plus the short moving average touching up at the right time, which I think was right about here. Okay, so it's not showing on the graph correctly here, but it's right about here. Okay, so if you think that this upward trend support line is not going to hold that much, which in my opinion, if we go down, it won't hold that much, So we would be dropping down to the 1150 price point, I guess somewhere between 1138, 1148. That could be fair game, but I think 1150 would hold us pretty well. Then if you're not optimistic for that and those are not going to hold up, then the next level will be 1127 to 1129. Then you got 1115, and then right about here. So if I moved into the, it's going to be a little bit difficult because I have to find the right angle for the chart and all that stuff, but there's quite a bit of support at the $11.04 price point. More specifically, I think it was like 1103 to be more specific. So we have quite a bit of support. I don't think we're going to drop down lower than that. Yes, we have more support on the downside. I'll elaborate more on a future video if I know, because I don't think that's going to happen today. And essentially, if you think it's going to go down, what you're banking on is maybe it's going to bounce off on a long moving average to the upside, or just continue down even further to the upward trend support line and bounce up to the upside. If you're optimistic though, and that's this upward trend support line is the one dating back since October 2020. So that's what you're expecting, and then you would be coming down to these support lines right here. The only thing is though, personally, I don't think we're going to break $11 today. If we do, I'll keep you guys posted if anything dramatic happens, like always, and comment down below. But I don't think that's going to be the case. Overall, I think we're going to continue upside with maybe a little bit of turbulence. And then one more other thing too is if we get trapped within this like triangular form until tomorrow, because that is a play, then basically what we're going to be like stuck between is, like I stated, actually pretty much the exact same play like I mentioned on the side, between 1140 to like 1238. So between there, and then probably close off the day probably pretty much by like $12, close to that. I think when I measured it was like 1188 or something like that. 1188, 1183. So take everything with a grain of salt, by the way. Nobody knows for sure. Just keep that in mind. Now, if we go to GameStop, GameStop's not looking too bright right now at the moment. Like not too it's having issues. So the problem is we broke this upward trend support, or these two support lines, and we had a downward trend resistance line that kept us down, had a false breakout to the upside, and then just pretty much got knocked down, and we formed a downward trend resistance line that we're trying to break below both moving averages, short and long, MAC lines in the negative. Now we do have support at the 190, so hopefully that holds us through to the upside, and then we have this upward trend support line that I'm banking on that's going to help us to bounce up to the upside. Now, if that's the case, then we're basically okay. So if you don't think it's gonna bounce up on the $190 price point support level, which I think is gonna have issues, to be honest, I think most likely what's gonna be the case, we're banking on bouncing on this upward trend support line. There might be issues, and we might head lower just because, like I stated, with the overall market, there might be a little bit turbulence for today and tomorrow. There might be. So if that's the case, you'd think that hypothetically would trickle down to the 187, 188 support level. Then you have the 177, 176 support level, which is around 174 as well for this upward trend support line right here. Now, if you think it's going to break the upward trend support line, you're looking at 170, 168 support as well. But ultimately at the 152, the problem is so this would be more like a false breakout, so 170 to 168, so that is fair game still, so that's still good. But then once you break this, the problem is you start trickling down pretty quickly, in my opinion. So you go down to 152, 150. Usually these clean 150s, 200s, 250s, they could act as good support, so that could be a good chance to hopefully hold us through. Then you'd be at 140, then 136 to 130, and then hopefully at 125, 126. So 125, 126, I can't remember the reason why. There was good support at that level. I apologize. I'm drawing a blank right now at the moment. But 125, 126, from what I remember, was really good support. But I put hopefully because it was good support, but I could see it, if it drops down dramatically, it could break it. That's the downfall. But I hope that bounce, what was it? Was it here? No, it wasn't. I apologize. I should have wrote down the reason why. And then if it comes down way too quick, then you'd be coming down to 119, 118, 112, between 119, 118 at support level, then 112, 100, and then 97, 86. And then this is the problem. So if you come down that fast, you'd be relying on this upward trend support line that dates back since September 2020 right here. Right here, September 2020, and this one's December 2020 as well. So you'd be relying on this support line, $80 price point, and then this support line, $68 price point. I personally don't think you guys are going to come down that much, to be honest. I'm expecting to bounce up on this price point right here, like I mentioned, with a potential false breakout. Worst case scenario, hopefully that's the worst case, 125, 126. But again, if you guys bounce up to the upside, break this downward trend resistance line, like I gotta mention that too, forgot about that. If you want to be hopeful to the upside, I won't be hopeful until you get above 235. Hopefully you hit 235 and it's not false breakout, because that 235 would reverse this downward trend resistance line and bounce you back up to this upward trend support line right here that dates back since February 26. So you're looking for 235 and above, and you should be not necessarily too confident, but confident enough that you reversed it to the upside and you're good to go. The only problem is you could be knocked down by the short moving average, and if that's the case, you're looking to get knocked down around the 250. By the time you meet it, it'll be probably about the $250 price point. So that's the problem. And then if you do get knocked down, if you're optimistic, like let's just say you go up and then you get knocked down by the 250, hopefully you bounce back up on this upward trend support line. So you're looking at the 228 support level. Hopefully by the time you meet it, depends on when you meet it. That's a problem. So if you do come down from 250, don't be too worried. If you start breaking levels, specifically the $200 price point, then you know, I'm just ballparking it, but if you break the $200 price point, then you know you're relying on the 190 again, and then everything else comes back into play hypothetically. But keep in mind, these levels do move a little bit with the upward trend support levels. So yeah, there's that. Now for AMC, you guys are looking good. The only problem is you might have issues today a little bit. Now this line doesn't seem perfect, but there's an upward trend support line that you guys do have. I believe it was in the 5-day moving chart then, probably, or something like that. Yeah. So upward trend support line, you guys did have false breakouts. Hopefully you continue on the upside for it. Now I'm going to show one thing for the new viewers, just in case. You had a downward trend resistance line dating back since 2016. You guys had a false breakout, got knocked down from it by the moving average, and then you guys bounced back up above it, and you guys are right about here roughly, give or take. So you guys are looking good overall. And if I go to the moving chart, 1 month moving chart, you had an upward trend support line right here, had a false breakout, and then just continued on the upside, and then bounced on the resistance level that dates back since the 2016 that I mentioned. And you guys might have turbulence, but overall you guys are looking good, because above both short and long moving average, yes, MAC lines in the negative, but I think most likely what's probably going to happen is you guys might come down a little bit to this level right here, as worst case scenario, right? So if you don't continue on the upside upward trend support line, then actually I'll cover the upside first and then I'll cover the downside. So if you continue on the upward trend support line, then the levels that you need to pass is ultimately 1424, then 1450. I think there's going to be issues today to pass those levels. I know I stated that yesterday for yesterday's video and underestimated the upside, but I think there might be issues today just because given the overall market for the Federal Reserve meeting for tomorrow. But if you guys do pass it, just a quick look, issues are going to be, you guys are going to have issues passing $15, then $15.30. These are like ballpark averages though. So $15, $15.30, and $16.30. $16.30 is going to be extremely hard. Definitely going to be, if you guys pass that, like honestly, props. Hopefully you guys do. But $16.30, it wasn't $16.30 exact. It was like 16. I think it was like $16.32 or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But around these ballpark price, passing these levels will be significant and they'll be awesome, obviously. But it's going to be quite difficult in my opinion. But hopefully you guys pass 1450. Then you'll know you're going to the upside completely, continuing this upward trend support line. Now, the thing is though, if you drop down, you've already passed these support levels in terms of the pre-market, so that's unfortunate. So they might be acting as resistance, so I'll mention them. So $13.92, yes, $14 is going to act as resistance. You have the short moving average is going to pretty much meet you up at $13.78, $13.79, so that's going to be resistance as well. Then you have $16.63. Then you have support at $13.42. So you have support at $13.42, and then ultimately by the time you meet it, okay, so yeah, $13.42 support. Hopefully that holds you guys up pretty well. I remember that was quite a bit of good support, but I can't remember exactly why. And then there's $13.22, $13.20. So between $13.22 to $13.20, then $13 price point. And then what's going to happen is if you think you're going to drop lower than that, by the time when I measured it, by the time you meet the moving average, well, actually, okay, so in terms of 1 month, the moving average, you'll meet it as at $13 price point, but I believe it was in the 5-day moving average. You'd meet at the 1279, 1283 to 1286 moving average price point, but there is support horizontally with this price point. Then 1249, then 1223, and then let me see. Okay, so I guess the problem is, so you have quite a bit of supports, like support levels, quite a bit of strong support at after 1223. You have quite a bit of good support at the 1198, 1205, 1202. I don't think you guys are going to break this level, to be honest. I think you would reverse the upside after that. But if you think it's just going to start tanking and ultimately meeting this downward, like this support level right here, this upward trend support level, downward trend support level by the end of the day. So this is more of the end of the day, and you wouldn't be trickling down too fast. You'd be meeting it by the end of the day and like slowly bleeding. That's the unfortunate part. And if that's the case, then you're heading down to 1189 after that, 1173. Then there's good support, and hopefully you bounce at 1162. So this would be your saving grace if you don't bleed down all the way to the end by the end of the day. I would be really confident, because I saw a lot of touch points at 1162. So I'd be pretty confident at 1162 that hopefully you'll just reverse to the upside completely from that. That's what I would like bank on. Again, take everything with a grain of salt. Nobody knows for sure. These touch points that could just be completely, even though they're really good support levels, could be broken easily at times. So keep that in mind. But really good support at 1162. Then you, again, if you're slowly bleeding by the end of the day, 1149 to 1151, 1155, good support level there as well. But 1140, then 1128 to 1130, then 1122, then 1114 to 1098. Now this is where it is. So technically, if you were to come down to this level, you'd be coming down to 1095, 1092 to 1090, somewhere around there, and then bounce up by the end of the day. So this would be more if you were just bleeding all the way throughout the day, and then hopefully that would hold you guys up and then bounce up to the upside for the next, by probably the last 30 minutes of the trading day, I think it was, or something like that. Yeah, the last hour and a half, maybe 30 minutes at the end of the day, bounce up off this level. Hopefully you guys don't break these levels and go lower, but I'm pretty confident you guys will, if you were to come down, would reverse up to the upside. And again, in my opinion, worst case scenario is 1162 if it was dramatic, insanely dramatic. But I guess insanely dramatic would be the 1095, 1092, 1090. But yeah. So now for Nokia, you guys are looking honestly really good. Like, I'm going to show something that I always show in case if you're a new viewer. But you have a double downward trend resistance line dating back since 2000, 2001. And that's technically kept you guys down back here, back tested. But then you had an upward trend support line right here with a touch point dating back since March 2020. Then another one October 2020. Now you didn't bounce off it here. I have too many lines here. It's difficult to see. But you had a horizontal support line that you bounced off and went up to the upside. So even better technically, which is awesome. You don't need to rely on the upward trend support lines to bounce off them. Now MACD line is in the positive but actually I'm gonna zoom into the month chart, so that's a little bit more easier to explain. So you're above both short and long moving average in terms of the 1 month chart, and then the MACD line is in the negative, but I'm pretty optimistic you guys are going to continue on the upside, at least for the time being, right? Now, how long will you continue the upward trend support, like continue on upside? I think it might be cut a little bit short in the next couple of trading days, possibly, but for the time being, you guys might be good. In terms of long term, make sure you do your research and due diligence, so that way, if you're investing in it and you know why you're investing in it for long term, you're still solid. You have no worries at all. But in terms of short term, I believe these upward trend support lines will carry you guys through. So you have one right here. It doesn't look clean right now, but multiple touch points on this upward trend support line, multiple touch points at this upward trend support line as well. And then what's going to happen is you guys are going to have issues. Ultimately, yes, there is more resistance levels between these levels, but I believe 431 will act as potential support, potentially. Not the greatest support level, but it will act as support. If you're below it, it'll act as resistance as always. But 1138 to 1130, sorry about that. Hopefully I didn't say 1131, but I meant 431 by the way. So 438 to 439, that's going to be pretty big resistance level, 438 to 439. But the one I'm concerned about the most is 444 to 445. this level is going to be extremely hard today to pass. I don't think you guys are going to pass it. If you guys do pass it, you might have a false breakout to 449 and 450, but then ultimately come back down. And then if you're continuing on the upside, you might close at 444, 445. That's what might happen. Hopefully you guys do. If it's not that optimistic, then it's going to be closing at 438, 439, which actually most likely will happen. So that's probably what's going to happen. If you guys spike up 444, 445, maybe even spike up a little bit too fast to 449, 450 and come back down, consolidate for a little bit of a while for 444, 445, and then come back down by the end of the day at 438, 439. Now, if you're thinking it's going to come down and then just trickle down throughout the day, then you have support at 431, yes, but I think what would happen is you would probably fall down and act as resistance. Then you have 429, 427, 424, and then 422. Now, 422 is moving up or meeting at the short moving average. Hopefully you guys bounce up on the upside as support level on the short moving average. But then if you don't, then you have support at the 420, 419 with this upward trend support line right here. So 420, 419. I think that would most likely be the case as the lowest level for the day if you were to go down. But then if you're thinking that you're going to go lower, you have horizontal support at 419, 415. Hopefully you guys bounce up to the upside on that. And then you have, what is it called? The upward trend support line right here at 413, 410, so upward trend support level. I personally don't think you guys are going to go lower than that. If you were, then there would be more support levels. There's the long moving average as well you could rely on. Again, I think you guys are going to end up more to going to the upside. And technically right here, I'm just eyeballing it right now. It looks like you have an upward trend support line happening for the most part. Like, it's technically, hypothetically solidified because there's technically 3 touch points. So technically, it's almost a good sign that you guys are heading up. So there's that. But I ultimately think you guys are going to go up, maybe have a little bit of a dip at the 427. You might dip down to 427. I wouldn't be too worried. I know I stated at 431. That might keep you down, but hopefully if you dip to 427, you spike back up past 431, you'd be good. Otherwise, you'd be consolidating for the rest of the day between 427 to 431. But hopefully not. Hopefully continue to the upside. But that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, like always, if you guys did like the video, consider dropping a like. It does help out the channel a lot. If you do like videos in terms of these videos, in terms of stocks and other stock videos, financial freedom, passive income, mortgages, credit scores, all that stuff, consider subscribing so you can be notified the next time I do upload these types of videos. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. And that's pretty much it. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.